All right, welcome to the Fantasy Football Last Call podcast. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me tonight, my old pal from last season, Dave Eddy. What is up, man?
What do you mean, old pal? Is that like an old joke, or like we used to be friends, or how am I supposed to take that?
Take it how you want. No, you abandoned me. No, just kidding. No,
I mean, kind of. You're kind of right. I kind of did. I mean, oddly
yeah.
enough.
Dave was Dave was my co-host for this last year, but he's a busy guy. So
The guy a little too famous for this bullshit.
right.
But then I leave and I come around. I come back and look, we're in a bar and we got this whole
Hey,
thing.
man, yeah.
And I didn't know you were gonna have such a budget. If I had known that, things would be a little different.
It's open bar, man. You didn't know?
I didn't. I'm finding out now.
So we are at halftime at the Bucks and the Patriots, and man, bit of a shocker.
A little bit.
Little bit. Patriots are winning 7-6. Tom Brady's not lighting up like we all thought. Maybe it's weather related. Maybe it's a little nerves. But yeah, it's I thought Tom Brady and the Patriots were. Or Tom Brady and the Bucks. Sorry, we're going to. That's a dude. I mean, that's easy what I feel. Right, we're going to light this up, but they are not. And we'll see. We got a whole second half to play. They started coming alive here at the very end of the second half or for second quarter. So maybe we'll see a little bit more of that going forward. But that all put aside, we got a lot of other games to talk about. So let's roll with it, man.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll start off the Washington football team against Atlanta. We had Washington winning 34-30. Heineke had another, pretty decent game. 290 yards and 3 touches. Got 43 yards on the ground as well. So nice to see him kind of continuing to, good start to the season. Gibson was involved as well, 63 yards, and got in on the ground there as well. And then maybe the play of the game was one of McLaurin's 2 touchdown passes. He kind of caught that deep kind of a prayer ball at the end. So if you had him, that was nice to see. But he still had 13 targets no matter how you slice it. So
he did.
That's nice to see. It's the Falcons, man. Boy.
Oh man, I forgot you used to say Falcons. That's hilarious. I'm sorry.
Whatever. So,
I miss you.
I said it on purpose the first time.
No, that's great.
But Matt Ryan was looking like his old self a little bit. 4 touchdowns, almost 300 yards. I think Cordell Patterson, though, he's kind of the story of the game here. 3 receiving touchdowns. He just continues to just be the most efficient player on that offense, and it's not even close. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with him and Davis, moving forward, because I guess you would think that Davis is the more talented player, but Patterson outplays him every week. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts there as far as what to make out of I guess you'd call it the backfield, but what to make between the two guys.
It's weird. I mean, they're still splitting work a lot. Davis is getting more of the rushes. And up until today, they were pretty split in the passing game too. Patterson saw 3 more, got 3 more receptions. Just happened to score 3 times. I mean, and I mean that's kind of fluky. That's not going to happen every week. Obviously, I still think it's going to be a pretty split backfield. But Patterson is definitely taking every opportunity he has in his offense, and it's working. And I never ever thought I would have shares of Cordell Patterson in any of my leagues, and I've got him in like 3 or 4 of them now. And he sat on my bench this week in all of them because it's hard to start him over guys. He really is. So he'll be moving up for sure. So next week will be interesting to see where he gets ranked all over the place. But I still think he's going to be hard to trust week in, week out, unfortunately. Him and Davis.
Yeah, I got a little bit lucky. I had taken some shares that I had earmarked for Davis, and I had pivoted to Patterson on about half of them. So that worked out nice. Very risky, and I don't know that I'm going to trust either one of them here until I see something a little more solid from them.
Yeah.
But let's get to kind of the blowout of the day, I guess, to be
Yikes.
expected. But, Davis Mills looked like a rookie. 4 interceptions, less than 100 yards. I think that's all you need to know about the Texans. As far as the Bills are concerned, nothing, crazy stands out, but, they didn't really need to do that. So Allen was fine, 250 yards or so.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns there. It looked like, Moss kind of was one of my DFS. I wouldn't call them sleepers, but one of my DFS guys this week that I thought was going to go a little bit under the radar. He got in the end zone, 61 yards on the ground. Diggs, another decent game. Didn't get in the end zone, though, 7 for 114. Mm-hmm. But, Knox with the 2 touchdown catches. So, dude just keeps getting in the end zone over and over again. Great if you're a Bills fan. Terrible if you're a Stephon Diggs fan.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's a whole lot to unpack here. I think we kind of saw what we expected to see.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is it was kind of funny. So this morning on the Sunday Social podcast with myself, LaPlante, and Dylan Clemens, we do the start-sit questions, and we got a bunch of Dawson Knox questions, and we actually got one where it was, I have Knox, I can start Brait, or I can start the Conklin. And I went, well, guess what? You just named my number 15, my number 16, and my number 17 ranked tight end. So good luck. I went, one of them's going to score a touchdown. And I said, if I had to put money on it, I'd put Knox. So thankfully I was right. But, I didn't start him anywhere. But, because those are those tight ends where you're just going like, whatever.
Yeah, those are your flip
hope and a prayer.
Think,
yeah,
absolutely.
so.
I already know. I want to talk about the next one. Lions and the Bears. Jared Goff continues to put up, decent numbers.
Yeah.
Kind of because he kind of has to. 299 through the air, so just short of the 300-yard bonus if your league has that. 2 touchdowns. Kind of Jamal Williams kind of led the backfield here. He had 66 yards there. And Khalif Raymond only had 3 catches, but 2 of them got in the end zone. So if for some reason you were forced to play Khalif Raymond, I'm sorry, but you're glad that you did. And then, Bears side here, Fields didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot, didn't have to do a whole lot, but, real life did enough to win the game fantasy-wise. Not what you want to see against that Lions defense.
It was at least better than last week.
Well, it had to have been. I know. As Justin Fields was last week. But David Montgomery, he looked great. 100-plus yards, 2 touchdowns. I saw through Red Zone that he ended up going off the field where it looked like he had gotten hurt. I didn't see any update on that. Do you have any updated news on that injury? Because it didn't look good.
I actually forgot about that. Yeah, I don't, unfortunately, but I do remember seeing that. It is very late in the game, too.
Yeah. But Mooney also came up pretty big. He had 5 catches for 125 yards. But what we haven't seen from the Bears is as Allen Robinson, and you would think that with a young quarterback, you would rely on a all-pro, level wide receiver, but we haven't seen that. So I'm curious what you think about, A-Rob's value moving forward, assuming that we're going to see Justin Fields.
Dude, it's bottoming out, man. It really is. And I know people are going to say buy low, but I don't want anything to do with it. They're going to, when they're losing, I guess maybe Fields will have to throw the ball more. Who knows that if Dalton gets healthy, they'll play him again. I don't know what's going to happen with his offense. He caught all 3 of his targets, but he only had 3 targets. That's not A-Rob. What was the thing we all said about A-Rob coming into the season? He's quarterback proof. Maybe not. Or maybe he's not coach proof. Maybe that's a big problem. Nagy's just being terrible. I have no idea. I really just don't know what to think here. And note, I'm quickly skimming, Google headlines here. It could be an MCL or LCL injury for Bears David Montgomery. So fairly serious. Looking like IR is on the horizon here. So it will be interesting to see. They have Damian Williams, right? I always get Damian and Darrell Williams mixed up because they were both for Kansas City and one of them left. Right. But Damian Williams, he can come in and do some good things. I like him as a player. Overall, I think he's worthwhile as a pickup here for sure.
Yeah, especially if he's going to be starting for a team that might be starting a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
We have Panthers, Cowboys. Cowboys win 36-28. Sam Darnold, he is your league leader in rushing touchdowns.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
Nope.
exactly. So Kyle, if you had a prop bet on Sam Darnold lead league in touchdown runs, you're looking good, my man. So two on the ground, 2 in the air. Got to the 300-yard bonus as well at 301. So I mean, Sam Darnold just continues to have a great start to the season, and it's a guy I've always been a fan of. And he, obviously wasn't able to do this with the Jets, but here with a real team, he's kind of showing what he can do. Hubbard, not bad, but nothing to write home about. DJ Moore was spectacular.
Awesome.
Again, 8 catches, 113 yards, got in the end zone twice. So that was great. You think that, the Cowboys winning this game, doing so by putting up almost 40 points, that, you'd be thrilled about Dak in the passing game. But, 4 touchdowns, you're thrilled to see that. Under 200 yards is a little bit of a head scratcher, but, Zeke got that ball 20 times.
Yes, he did.
43 yards. He got a touchdown there. So, DFS, if you were playing Zeke, is some leverage off that passing game. Congratulations. You made a really nice call there.
Except he didn't get any passing work, which was hilarious. It's kind of so in DFS, as you know, I started Dak and I started Lamb, and guess I probably should have started Cooper instead. But I mean, honestly, if Cooper hadn't scored, it would have been 3 for 69. Dak just spread the ball out to everybody. I mean, Cooper scored, Schultz scored, Wilson scored, Jarwin scored. Lamb just didn't score. It's like,
they only threw the ball 22 times.
I know. This was a little bit more of a blowout than it looked.
Absolutely.
Carolina scored 14 in the 4th, so they just stopped throwing the ball is basically what they did. So, yeah, it's just one of those, I think I expected it to be a little bit closer, and I don't know. Better days ahead for CeeDee Lamb for sure. I'll tell you what, though. What you really like to see coming out of this game, and I heard a lot of people mentioning this coming in, is that with McCaffrey out, it was Robbie Anderson time. And, he didn't, blow up, but 11 targets. That was desperately needed for people who roster him. Because he was seeing, no, he's been seeing, single-digit targets every week.
Well, right. But I'm saying his target share hasn't been terrible. It's just DJ Moore's been doing more with his opportunity. So, I mean, I was pretty heavy on Robbie Anderson this week because I was, he's going to have a big game because he is getting targeted, but DJ Moore is just, the beast in that offense.
No, sure. Robbie Anderson saw 3 targets, 6 targets, and then 2 targets. So the targets really haven't been there for Robbie Anderson.
He's never seen 11, but I'm saying I don't know.
It hasn't been great.
He hasn't been seeing targets.
Because last year was obviously a lot more, but of course CMC was out too. So
of course.
So it's much needed to see that for Robbie Anderson. People who rostered Robbie Anderson, but
for sure
you need to see him actually do something with them now.
Yeah, no doubt about that, man. Colts 27, Dolphins 17. Carson Wentz gets you 2 touchdown passes. JT had a pretty nice game, 100 yards on the ground with a touch. And Mo Alley Cox kind of, just comes out of nowhere and gets you 2 touchdowns or gets you nothing at all. But if
life of the bottom feeder tight ends.
So if somehow you were playing him this week, great job, I suppose.
Big gain to AB. Flag.
Jacoby still in there for Tua. And again, 2 touchdown passes, 199 yards there. Parker had 4 for 77 and a touchdown. Gesicki had 5 for 57 and a touchdown. Dolphins didn't really look all that great. Colts, I think, looked a little bit better than what they were. But I guess I'll give you 2 questions. You decide which one you want to answer here, Joe. Do you want to talk about why Myles Gaskin is seemingly falling off the earth whenever that's one of the better 3-down backs in the league, in my opinion? Or do you want to talk about Taylor having a great game, looking good again, even though he came into the game banged up a little bit?
Let's be positive and go with Jonathan Taylor. the one thing we talked about last week on the show was the fact that Jonathan Taylor only saw 10 carries in a fairly close matchup, which was shocking. And then, even more shocking is when you dig into it and you see that they had the ball within the 5-yard line twice in a close game, and he didn't see the ball once in any of those. If you look at it, he had a better yards per carry than Wentz did yards per attempt. And yet he didn't get the ball.
Oh.
So yeah, it was a little bit mind-boggling. So it was nice to see him get some work today. You still want to see more than 16 carries, especially in a game where they've got the lead. But 103, he looked like Jonathan Taylor that we saw near the end of last season. So you're hoping that Frank Reich will actually be like, oh, maybe I should give my best player the ball a little bit more. That's all we can hope for. But Jonathan Taylor is still a stud, and I think there are better days ahead and more days like this ahead, actually.
So next one here, man, I think is the most disappointing game of the day.
This game's terrible.
What I think the over-under was like 51.5. To be fair, I did bet the under, but I didn't think we were going to score 21 points here. Browns 14, Vikings 7. Started off great. If I'm not mistaken, Vikings came down, scored very quick on their first drive.
They did.
Touchdown pass to Jefferson. I actually had a cousin Jefferson OBJ game stack in my single entry, and I thought to myself, okay, all right, I went a little risky here.
All over OBJ this week. I didn't actually get him in my cash lineup because that's all I play. I just couldn't fit him in, but I was loving him this week. I thought the matchup was great. He saw 7 targets.
It was.
Caught 2 of them. Ugh.
Yeah, so I was all over that. I thought it was a sneaky little way to attack a single entry. Wasn't super expensive, but yeah, started off great, ended in a big freaking dud. Not a lot great to talk about here. Chubb had 100 on the dot. He had 21 carries. Hunt had 14 himself, got 1 in the end zone. So that's kind of Cleveland Browns football these days.
Yep.
Just run. And it's not like they have a lot of guys to throw to, with Landry being out. You kind of choose between OBJ, who is or isn't fully healthy, and I guess Austin Hooper. So I don't blame him for running the ball.
Yeah.
But disappointing day.
It was.
For the Vikings as well. Cousins has just been on fire for, most of last season and to start this year. And, Browns defense is pretty good, but I didn't expect to see this. I guess really what I would ask you is with, Landry, still being out for a little bit, we've now seen 2 games of OBJ, and he had a big old dud here in a pretty good matchup. So what are your thoughts even just heading into next week?
Honestly, I've never been a big OBJ fan. I don't think we're ever going to see the OBJ we saw with the Giants. We're never going to see that again from him. He's just not that player anymore. He's more talk than anything else, it seems like. But look, this was the game I thought he would do it. And if he's not going to do it here, good luck figuring out when it will. Maybe the week 11 against the Lions. Sorry.
Yeah, probably.
But probably the biggest news coming out of this is Dalvin Cook re-injured that ankle of his. So that's not good news. You don't ever want to see somebody re-injure the ankle. But Madison proved in the week that Cook was out, that he can get it done. But of course, we saw a lot of dud games from him last year when Cook was out. So he didn't do all that great this week. But the Browns' run defense is pretty solid. So you're just gonna play matchups with Madison, I feel like. But if you have Cook, hopefully you handcuffed, because you kind of history shows you need to.
For sure, man. I definitely got some Madison and best ball. Just as a later round kind of a flyer in case something happens to Cook. But never good to see.
He's one of the best, man.
Go down. Absolutely.
One of the best.
So I don't know what the hell to make of this next game here with the Saints. I
don't know how they lost. I really don't.
I expected to see more of what I think of as the Sean Payton Saints with Jameson in there than to see kind of like the old Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Jameis, because they're so hit and miss, man. and they lose this game this week to the Giants, 27-21. I mean, kudos to Daniel Jones. 400 yards through the air, 2
Balled out
touchdowns
at the end, man.
against what I think is a pretty good, Saints defense. So those are great numbers. I mean, Saquon got in the end zone on the ground and in the air, so it's nice to see him back and doing what he does. An old flame of mine, Kenny Galladay. 6 catches for $116, so he's healthy. Enjoy that while you can, Giants fans.
Hey, we got a random John Ross touchdown.
Yeah, that was a big one too. Again, though, the Saints, it's just so weird. I mean, I believe that this was the first game in Kamara's career that he didn't get a single target. Taysom Hill looked like the best player not named Kamara on that team. He had that beast run for a touchdown, and he kind of likes to take over once they get it down into the red zone. So that definitely limits some of Jameis's upside. And I guess, what do you make of the Saints team? I imagine they're hard to trust, but what would you do with anyone not named Kamara?
Not use them. I mean, you just can't. What are you going to do? And so, Kamara is going to feast now because Tony Jones got hurt. So now they're going to use Dwayne Washington as the backup. Maybe some Ty Montgomery, but maybe we'll just see more Taysom Hill. But Callaway's not consistent enough. Deontay Harris isn't. None of these receivers are consistent enough. Maybe we see Michael Thomas come back and really help this offense, but it just doesn't seem like Michael Thomas even wants to play for the Saints anymore, or they don't want him to play for them anymore. It's such a weird dynamic there. But yeah, as you mentioned, Winston was okay. 119 rating. He didn't throw a pick, so hey, that's something for him. But he's going to lose a lot of value if he gets taken out in the red zone, which he did a lot. Taysom Hill scored twice within the 10-yard line. So that's going to crush Winston's value. On the other side of the ball, man, all I can say is Saquon looks back, baby. So everybody who listened to the shows for the draft recap, or the draft season shows where we did the division previews, what did we say? We said, you want to buy low on Saquon before week 4. That's what we said. It's random that we picked, maybe not so random, but this, go figure, week 4, he balls out and scores twice, has, 120 something total yards. Yeah. He looks back, man. He looks like himself, and they're using him more. That's the big deal.
Well, they have to. They don't have anybody else healthy on offense.
Well, that's true. Hey, they forced their hand, but now maybe they can feel more comfortable with it going forward, sure. And they should. That's going to help everybody on this offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when people are healthy, even when Shepard and Slayton come back, that's going to just help everybody.
Yeah, right, man. Well, barring the result of the game happening right now, I would say that the Jets over the Titans was the upset of the day.
Yes.
It was more, I don't know. I feel like it was more the Titans than it was the Jets. But
I agree.
Zach Wilson had some great plays. Definitely the best he's looked by far. 297, 2 touchdowns there.
Go figure. The first game he had Crowder back, right?
It was, yeah.
So there's something to that.
If you own Michael Carter, I think this was a positive game.
Yes.
13 carries, 38 yards doesn't sound like
Not
much.
Great, but he got in the end zone.
Is great, but he's the guy that seems to be getting the carries there. So
yes,
I would rather my guy, was getting the carries than not. Corey Davis, he had a pretty good game, kind of a revenge game for him. 111 yards and a touchdown. He had a 53-yard touchdown. So if you own him, or was planning on playing him as your secondary stack with Henry in DFS, thanks, Kyle. Then that panned out pretty well. Tennessee, obviously, they were missing Julio and AJ. So the fact that you got almost 300 from Tannehill and a touchdown, if you were forced to play him, probably isn't too bad. Henry did pretty much what we were expecting, 33 carries, 157 yards. He got in on the ground. They were kind of just riding him because that's what they had to go for. But at the end of the day, Jets won biggest takeaway for me is just that Michael Carter might be the lead back there finally. And so if you took a chance on him, I think you're happy to see that. But you're going to have to hope that you can get some more production out of him to be able to make him reliable.
It's unfortunately still the Jets, so it's going to be hard to trust production out of a lot of people from this team. This game was ugly. Every time they showed this game on Red Zone, they just kept showing Tennessee throwing the ball, and I wasn't watching the box score, but I'm sitting here with my friend Keenan was actually over here today. Keenan.
Oh, was he really? Yeah.
And we're sitting here going like, why aren't they giving the ball to Derrick Henry? It's the freaking Jets. Run the ball. Then we look up. We're like, oh, he's got 30 carries. All right, so I guess they have been. But it's just like there was a couple of like short yardage plays on like third down where they pass. And you're like, no, they're not going to stop Derrick Henry. Like, just give him the damn ball. So those were kind of the mind-boggling plays where you're just kind of like, stop it. But, they were getting – Tannehill got sacked 7 times. I don't know if that was because he had nobody to throw to, so it was more coverage sacks, or if it was just, the offensive line was bad, defensive line was good for the Jets. Again, I don't get to watch the entire games here, but that is that is not a good set you ever want to see. That's Justin Fields-ish range there, where he got sacked 9 times last game. This offense will be much different next week, hopefully, if they can get some of these guys back. And I expect better things coming from this team. They're not going to lose to teams like the Jets anymore.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, man. So DFS-wise, a game that a lot of people had earmarked here was Chiefs and Eagles. It kind of lived up to what we were hoping to see. So far through the first 4 weeks, kind of the two guys that I've been heaviest on for DFS has been Jalen Hurts and Chase Edmonds. Hurts, again, just puts up the numbers. I know if you're an Eagles fan, you're not happy to see him just seem like he doesn't win games. But in the box score, for fantasy purposes, the guy is just –
you're not an Eagles fan. You don't care. You just want fantasy numbers.
I don't care. I like to see, 387 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns from, one of the top, 3, running quarterbacks in the league.
I'm surprised we're not getting more rushing from him, honestly.
Well, it's not been bad. He still had about 50 yards today.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're not getting it. It's just, he doesn't have the same flash, I think, that Lamar and Kyler have. He's just a little bit more efficient. His passing numbers this year have been terrific, and a lot of it is
minus the Dallas game. Honestly,
but still,
the end result, the end box score, like the yardage wise, was decent for the Dallas game. But if you watched that Dallas game, he was awful.
Right, and that's the problem. Is in real life, he may or may not be around after this year. But for DFS purposes and for fantasy purposes, the guy's a gold mine.
Yep.
It's just what they do with Sanders is weird. I guess we'll get back to that in a second. But
there's a lot of things to take away from this one, honestly.
Yeah,
I do.
we got to talk about the Chiefs here because Mahomes had another great game here. Nice to see him get back with 5 touchdowns, 278 yards. CEH again, another 100-yard game, and he caught one for a touchdown as well. Hill, after having a couple of bad weeks in a row, being a little bit banged up, he goes for 11, 186, and 3 touchdowns. Kelsey kind of wasn't there, but he didn't have to.
Took a back seat, yeah.
Hill did everything. So I guess really more what I'm curious about your thoughts on is Miles Sanders, because I feel like just the way that these games are going and just the style that they play with Hurts back there, I feel like either Sanders is just getting underused or they just don't trust him. I don't know which, but either way, if you own him, it's not good.
I have no idea what to think with Miles Sanders. We've seen in years past where, he has a great per touch, yards per average here. This game, not so much, but, granted, he did have an 11.3 average in the passing game off 3 targets, caught all 3. But, they're not running the ball with him. And, you were Worried that, with Hurts back there, that Sanders wasn't going to get as much rushing as maybe in years past, although he wasn't super heavily utilized in years past because of other guys they had there.
Yeah.
But, last week we saw him touch the ball, 3 or 4 times total? That was craziness. And then this week they got down and they turned to Kenneth Gainwell a lot. Yeah. Gainwell saw 8 targets, caught 6 of them for 58. They just didn't use Sanders. I don't know what he has done to the coaching staff there, but I think Sanders, if he could get out of Philly, I think he would be awesome, because I think this guy's way too talented to see 10 touches a game.
Yeah, it's interesting. He definitely. I feel like his time in Philly, be it his choice or Philly's choice, is probably going to be limited here.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you want to hit the
yeah, man. Let's finish this out here with these last 4 games. So we've got the Cardinals and the Rams. Probably a bit of a surprise to some people. I definitely picked the Rams myself to win this game, but it did not happen. It was a bit of a blowout, honestly. Cardinals 37, Rams 20. Murray doing Murray things, of course, except for he actually didn't do a lot with his legs today. Not as much as usual, but 24 for 32 for 268 and 2 touchdowns. D-Hop kind of game. AJ Green kind of coming around, 5 for 67 and a touch. Of course, D-Hop had Jalen Ramsey on him. So Hopkins has had some good games against Ramsey, but Ramsey won this one ultimately. In the rushing game, this was interesting, man. Edmonds had a really huge rush, but so finished with 12 for 120, caught 4 for 19. Connor, though, ran for 18, 50, and got to 2 scores. But that's what we've been seeing. So Edmonds is used within the 20s, and then Connor's used when they get down close. I think ultimately that's going to keep capping Edmonds' value. And so unless he can get a long one in, I think that's what we're going to keep seeing. On the other side of the ball here, we got Stafford, still a pretty good game, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw a pick. Henderson looked pretty good in his first game back, 14 for 89, caught 5 for 27. Cooper Kupp didn't wow like he had been, but still saw 13 targets. Robert Woods got into the end zone finally, but not really a great game, 4 for 48, and one of those was a super late touchdown. Tied for targets with Van Jefferson, Higbee, and I wrote the other name down, and Henderson. Yeah. So, it's a little crazy that they're just not feeding Woods the ball a little bit more, in my opinion. I was a big Woods guy coming into this season, and I want to go there. What do you think here is going on with the fact that Woods just doesn't seem to be a favorite in the passing game that a lot of us expected he would be?
I'm not worried. I was actually really overweight on Woods this week because he's still second in that team in targets. He's still second in that team in target share. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that – you're happy with, obviously, what you've gotten from him through 4 weeks. But I think by the time we get to the end of the year, I don't think he's going to be able to catch, what Kupp is doing. But I think you're going to end up being relatively satisfied with what you get from him by the end of the year. And mm-hmm. what that just might mean is, if your team is whatever 4-0, 3-1, 2-2, and Kupp Woods is one of your top 2 receivers, and you've gotten this far with him, I think you're going to be happy with him making up that production as the season goes on. There's no doubt he's going to have a game or 2 or a handful of them where he way outshines Kupp. I'm not personally worried.
Fair enough. And real quick, what do you think about D-Hop, man? I don't really know what to say here with he's kind of underwhelmed to start the season as a top 5 receiver in most drafts. 4 for 67. I get it was Ramsey, but he wasn't that much better last week. And outside of week 1, and week 1 honestly was touchdowns more than anything.
Yeah, he's been hurt, so that doesn't help. Even if he was getting back and being healthy this week, Jalen Ramsey is the one guy in the league that will shut anybody down. So mm-hmm. I don't think that it's fair to hold this week against him. With that being said, though, all of a sudden at Arizona, you've got a cast of guys that can catch the ball. And I'm not just talking Rondell Moore, AJ Green, Christian Kirk. I'm also throwing Chase Edmonds in there.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, Chase has been my second highest owned guy throughout the season. And there's just so many targets to choose from. And yeah, none of them are better than Nuke. He might be the best in the league, but there's just so many mouths to feed, and they're all so good that Murray gets in starts to get out of the pocket, and
Scramble mode.
He doesn't have to look specifically for Nuke. He can just hit the guy that's open. And I think that's what you're seeing.
And you are seeing that's exactly right. And I'm looking at the target share right now. You're seeing 19.4% for Hopkins. You're seeing 18.6% for Green. You're seeing 14% for Moore and 14% for Kirk. And that doesn't include Edmonds, who's seeing 17.1% of the running, of the share as well. So it is just super spread out, with everybody. So it is a large, share. It's almost like a Tom Brady-esque, spread the ball offense here. So yeah, very interesting.
I do expect though that there's going to be points where I think Kyler is going to force the ball to Nuke, and you're going to see him have huge games still.
Oh, of course.
But I don't think that we're going to see it as consistently as what we have seen, over the past few years. I think it's going to be a little more hit and miss than what we're used to.
Yep. Moving on here, Seahawks and 49ers. You got Seahawks win 28-21 on the road. Wilson finished with a $149 and 2 touchdowns, ran for 26 yards. Carson only 13 for 30, and his running mate Alex Collins ran 10 for 44 for 1. So that's an interesting dynamic there. The fact that Carson didn't see a lot of workload. I didn't hear about an injury, but that's an interesting one to kind of keep an eye out for. DK Metcalf, 4 for 65 and a touchdown. And then Tyler Lockett, only 4 for 24, who was also one of those, hot starts of the season guys. So that's interesting to see him kind of come back down to earth here. On the 49ers side, big newsworthy here, Jimmy G, probably going to be out for a few weeks. It sounds like, and so we saw him get hurt. He played well before he got hurt, but now we saw Trey Lance come in, and Trey Lance, the overall line on him wasn't bad. 9 for 18, $157, 2 touchdowns, ran for 41. I think he got a 2-point conversion as well. Sermon ran 19 for 89, so much better day for him than we've seen in the past. And then Debo, man, Debo's a monster. Man. 8 for 156 and 2 touchdowns. One of them was the at one point, I'm pretty sure Trey Lance was like 1 for 6 for 76 yards at a touchdown. Yeah, that one touchdown went to Debo. So with Jimmy G out for a couple of weeks here, it sounds like at least. What do we expect this offense to look like, especially with teams being able to game plan for Trey Lance?
I think it's going to look a lot like what we're seeing with Justin Fields. If all their running backs were healthy, I wouldn't be quite so worried because that they can run the ball. And with a rookie quarterback, especially a rookie quarterback that by far was the least polished coming out of this draft, they would just rely on running the ball, using it to set up play action. You'd see, some stuff out of Trey. But if Trey's got to lead that offense, that scares me to death because I don't think that, at least at this point, Trey Sermon is the guy. And as great as Debo is, as great as Kittle is, and I really like Ayuk as well.
I do too.
I'm not sure that Lance is going to be able to do half the job that Jimmy G is. So I am extraordinarily worried about that offense. If Jimmy G misses time. I don't think Lance is ready yet.
Lance looked raw, man, and I know he kind of caught fire there at the end, like when they were rushing, and he was just having to just kind of ad-lib plays. It felt like, but I mean. He looked pretty rough at times with him, and I'm actually surprised they got it as close as they did with him in there, or kept it as close as they did. Like it seemed like it could have gotten really out of hand with him because it didn't look good. But over on the next game here, we got Ravens 23, Broncos 7. Another quarterback gets hurt on the Broncos side. Teddy Bridgewater goes out, finished with 65 yards and a touchdown. So in comes Locke, who finished 12 for 21, $113, no touchdowns and a pick. Mel Gordon, 9 for 56, caught 2 for 11. Javonte Williams, 7 for 48, 3 for 11. So, again, pretty split again. Noah Fant was really the only notable receiver on this team, 6 for 46 and a touchdown. Not much to like there. And then the Ravens, Lamar, 316 and a touchdown, a deep one to Brown, who had the dropsies last week. And
I saw him drop 3 touchdowns last week.
Dude, and you were there. And then he catches a crazy acrobatic catch this week. He dove for it and bounced off the turf and held on to it. So, whatever, man. And then Latavius Murray seems to be the new favorite toy in the backfield here, 8 for 59 and a touch. Let's go back to the injury for the Broncos here. And, we saw Teddy Bridgewater, and I know a lot of people were really all about, this has to be Locke's team. It's more dynamic with them. It's more exciting. All the weapons are going to be better with Locke. Are we sure? Because it looked horrible with him there today. And maybe just that he wasn't ready, but I was always under the impression that this team was better off with Teddy. He's a safer player. The defense is good. And he's been making their playmakers good. Tim Patrick is, even with all the injuries in the receiving corps, Tim Patrick has been able to step up. Sutton's been good. Fant's been good off and on. Obviously, it's just a tight end. Obviously, there's hit or miss weeks with all these tight ends outside of, most times with Kelsey and guys like that. But, then we get the backfield split here. But, what do you if Locke has to, Teddy's has got a concussion, so maybe he comes back next week, but if he's got to miss next week, do you just kind of stay away from this Broncos offense knowing that it's Locke and it's just super unknown?
I would like to know who it was that thought that Locke was a better quarterback than Bridgewater, because that doesn't make any sense. What I will say is,
I can name names, but I'm not going to.
Please
No.
Hold them anonymous. But yes, the profile of Drew Lock, as far as fantasy would be concerned, would be ideal to Teddy Bridgewater. The problem is Drew Lock sucks.
Yes.
Bridgewater is such an efficient passer.
He's just erratic, man.
And he just makes those around him better, whereas Drew Lock, unfortunately, makes those around him worse because he's just not that good.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say, though, that I've been on Javonte here for a few weeks, and I just wish that they would just start giving him the workload here, because if they did, I think that this kid would be easily a top 10, fantasy DFS running back.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they continue to do this in Denver. If it's not, Lindsey and Gordon, now it's Williams and Gordon, and I don't know if we're going to need to see an injury or what we're going to need to see.
The problem is, man, the problem is that Melvin Gordon is not playing bad. They're both kind of doing the same thing. And if anything, Gordon's been overall, he's got the better stat line on the year if you really look at it. He's had a couple, huge plays. Yes, Javonte's a better player. I get it.
Much better player.
I get it. Totally. Real quick on the other side, we saw a little bit more of this backfield shuffle here. Bell was active today, didn't really do anything. Tyson Williams, the darling for week 1, not even active today. Yeah. Was this just Murray's week? Are we going to see something different next week? Do we not care?
What's weird is that before the season, this was going to be J.K. Dobbins' breakout. He was going to, have this backfield. Yeah, Gus Edwards was there, and, he's a great complementary piece. But we were going to see Dobbins. We're finally going to have a running back in that offense get the bulk of the carries. And then every one of their mom gets hurt. And now we're kind of right back to where we started, last year, where they've got talent, but they have too much of it and it's spread too thin. So I don't know how you can remotely consider playing anyone
it's
on
hard.
that offense, let alone Lamar. And I guess, Andrews and Brown are fine. But as far as running is concerned, the backfield is just untouchable, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to trust any of those guys. Even when they named Murray the starter today, I didn't believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
He might start the game, but does that mean he's going to get all the touches? It kind of happened that way today, but it's impossible. Look, if it were to happen 2-3 weeks in a row, maybe I'll start believing it. But until then, it's gonna be one of those I'm fading it just because it's gonna be super hard to trust. Yeah. Last game. of the late afternoon slate here. We had the Packers and the Steelers. The Packers win 27-17. Big Ben, man, I don't know what to say about him. He's just not the same guy anymore, unfortunately. 26 for 40, 232, a touchdown and another pick. We had Harris finish for 62 yards, caught 6 for 29. So he's heavily involved in that passing game again. Not quite like last week, but not going to see 19 targets out of a running back very often. So don't expect that anymore. Deontay Johnson, 9 for 92 and a touchdown. Great game from him. And then, Juju, 2 for 11. Ooh. Not good there. Rodgers, 20 for 36, 248 and 2. And then A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones split the backfield, 15 touches each. A.J. Dillon actually finished with 81 yards rushing. Aaron Jones finished with 48, but thankfully caught 3 for 51, so kind of salvaged the day a little bit there, especially in PPR, but that's kind of worrisome there. And then Adams, 6 for 64. Cobb was the big winner here, and then receiving 5 for 69 and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams owners were pretty pissed, I'm sure, to see the 2 touchdowns go to Cobb. But I don't really know what to say about the Steelers. It seems like it's getting like we were coming into this year, and there was all the talk that they had these 3 big receivers, and we saw last year, especially early on, that all 3 were pretty trustworthy. Once Claypool finally started getting rolling, you could plug them in pretty much any week and be happy with what you got from them. Most weeks, right? Obviously, you're going to have some down weeks here and there. This year, not so much, and I just wonder if is it more of they're trying to run the ball more, and so they're not maybe passing the ball as much. But we saw 40 attempts from Big Ben today, or is it that Big Ben's really just not good anymore, and so it's really affecting these guys, and we're only going to get like 1, maybe 2 out of the 3 every week, but more probably 1 every week receiver to kind of step up.
This is Big Ben. The guy should have retired 3 years ago. Maybe when Aaron Rodgers is on the team next year, then Deontay will be, funny. Deontay will turn into Devontae, and you'll see him go off because that dude's legit. Jair Alexander isn't quite Jalen Ramsey, but he's known to shut down
top
guys.
Notch.
And even Deontay took advantage of him this week. So this is 100% a Big Ben thing, and it's not that I dislike Ben. It's just that's just what it is, man.
As much as you want to, I don't know, and I'm not going to call it names again, but I've seen people say Big Ben should be benched for Mason Rudolph. I'm like, no. We've seen Mason Rudolph. That doesn't work either. That's almost worse. That's still worse.
That's a younger Big Ben.
He's still bad. Like, it doesn't work. Like, guys, Big Ben's bad, and so is his backup. So just stick with Big Ben until he eventually gets hurt and you're forced to play Mason Rudolph. Then you'll realize, oh wait, this sucks too. Yeah. What do you think about this backfield split that they had today with Dillon and Jones? That one pretty much surprised me. I know Jones, I think, was dealing with an ankle injury, so maybe that played a part of it. But I still didn't expect a 15-15 split.
No, either way, it seems like Aaron Jones, for fantasy is like a top 5 back, but then you get these games where he either disappears or where he just doesn't, he gets his touches split. So I guess it's just the way the NFL is these days. You don't have a lot of guys that are just like Derrick Henry who just will get the rock. So, and I'm sure we talked about this numerous times, last year. That's what makes these running backs that do get the touches just so valuable.
Yep.
Because there's not many of them, and if you can get your hands on one, it's like gold. And Aaron Jones could be one of those guys, but just the way the NFL works these days, they just try to keep guys fresh, keep guys healthy, whatever it is. But great for real life, shitty for fantasy. I'm with you. I still think Aaron Jones is a
top 5, definitely a top 10 running back.
Yeah.
But it still sucks to see weeks like this where they just completely split the workload like this. But in weeks past, he's seen 17 and 19 carries in comparison to A.J. Dillon, who saw 5 and 6. So, take it for what you will. I think Jones actually did Jones fumble too. They might have gotten it back, but I feel like I saw Jones fumble, so maybe it was just kind of like, I think we got this game. Jones, go sit down, type of thing too. It could have just been, whatever. Oh man, New England's about to storm back here and score. Tampa Bay's up 13-7 right now, ending the third quarter, but the Patriots just got inside the 5-yard line, so. Very, very interesting game. Not anything anybody expected, I don't think. So this will be a good one to go watch. And hope you guys enjoyed the show. Again, follow me at F6P_Joe. And then we got at Corporal Eddie over here. And catch his. Oh, you're not doing the Sunday school anymore. It's just your On Deck Circle podcast, which is Tuesdays. Yeah, sorry.
Eastern.
We got a lot of pods. I lose track of which one's on which day. Sorry. So, go subscribe to that YouTube channel, guys, and catch all of the stuff that we got going on. It's great stuff. So, good luck to everybody this week. Hope you did well, and talk to y'all later.